Hi, I'm Mary and welcome to your practice. Today I'm going to guide you through a 15-minute post-run cool down and recovery practice with the aim of increasing tissue pliability, with increasing tissue hydration, and we're going to look at opening and helping to recover the hip flexors, quads, hamstrings, calves and Achilles. So if you have blocks, they will be helpful, or something similar, something like books. Work pretty well as well. If not, don't worry about it. If your knees are a little sensitive, you might want a blanket or a small pillow, maybe a towel for in underneath them, but again, not necessary. And to begin with, we're going to begin in toe breaking pose, and you will see in a moment why it is called so. So you'll flex your feet, draw your toes back towards your shins with your hands on the floor or maybe on blocks. Lift the knees slightly and slide your knees back towards your ankles. You might stay here, and this might feel like it's already pretty intense for you with the hands on the blocks. The blocks can be a little bit higher. And feel for spreading the toes and grounding down into the feet, into the toes. Lots of different hand variations. If it feels okay, you can start to walk the hands back, and again, maybe keeping blocks for support, or working towards stacking your shoulders over your hips and resting your hands on your thighs. If you notice that your baby toes are not quite in contact with the mat, maybe reach back and spread the toes until you can feel baby toes ground down. If you're looking for a little bit more sensation here, you can start to slide the knees slightly further forward, so you're really feeling like your toes are spreading and stretching. And this does get pretty intense pretty quick. And can you find a sense of ease here, maybe focusing on your breath? If you're just back from your run, focus on slowing down the breath. I would really encourage you to try and stay just a little bit above your edge. So find your edge and stay for a few extra breaths. If you do need to come out, if it's getting painful or really uncomfortable at any stage, then of course do come out. You're here for about another 10 seconds. Try and stay with it. Notice where you might be holding tension. So maybe in the shoulders, in the hands, in the jaw. Try to soften these areas. And slowly start to lean forward. Maybe your hands are on your blocks. Start to press down into the hands and lift the knees up slightly. As you lift the knees up into your chest, can you fold your chest down over the legs, relaxing your shoulders, relaxing your head and your neck. And if it works for you, you can start to walk the arms a little bit further forward. Find your heels get a little bit heavier. So opening up into the calves, into the Achilles. Focusing in on your breath. Have a look back. Make sure your toes are even. Maybe sink the weight back a little bit more into the heels, keeping the arms out in front of you. Almost feel like you're trying to lift your toes up and away from the floor. Finding a grounding down into the heels. And then maybe shift the weight back into the heels and find a little bit of balance here for a moment. The arms can lift, shoulders draw down. If that's not working for you, you can grab your blocks, place the blocks behind you, and rest the hands on the blocks for a little bit more support. Choose somewhere that works for you, that works for your body. Working on increasing your ankle mobility here. Trying to avoid any injuries in the ankles, the calves. And slowly start to come forward again. Bringing your blocks back to the top of your mat. And then walking the hands forward, lifting the hips up here into downward facing dog. So you might need to adjust the position of the feet. Taking a brief down dog here, bend the knees. Press down into the hands. Imagine pressing your hands forward so you can open the space between your wrists and your hips a little more. And gently start to pedal out the legs, bending one knee at a time, gently encouraging the other heel down towards the mat. It might touch, it might not. Press into your hands, gaze forward, and step your left leg to the top of your mat. Lower your right knee to the ground. Just make sure that left knee is stacked above the ankle, so you might need to move that left foot a little bit further forward. Grab your blocks here if you are using them. Place the hands on the blocks and lift the chest that bit more. Your right toes will stay tucked under. Feel like you're moving your knee back towards your toes, your right toes back towards your knee. And then begin to lift your chest a little more. As you do so, slowly start to move into the hips, drawing your right hip forward and back. So finding an opening into your right hip flexors, maybe into the quad of that right leg, small little bit. You might have the hands on the floor and do the same thing, moving backwards and forwards, but trying to move your chest forward into the space between the upper arms. Staying here for just a couple more breaths. And take your left hand to your left thigh, press down into the left thigh and come back up. You're stacking your hips a little bit higher here. Engage your right glute and think about sending your right hip forward. Stretch your right arm up towards the ceiling. Really find length through the right side body, and then start to bend into your left elbow, resting your left elbow either down on your left thigh, or if you've got a block, you can rest it down on your block, reaching your right arm over. Engage the right glute slightly, send the front of the right hip forward, maybe leaning back ever so slightly, so you're not coming into a back bend, you don't want to drop the hips, keep the hips lifted as you lean back with your upper body. Come back to the center, both hands on your blocks or on the floor. Slide your right knee back a little bit and then draw back through your outer left hip, lifting your left toes away from the floor. And you might need to be quite upright here. Your right knee is going to stack directly in underneath your right hip. So try not to have the hips moving too far back. Hips stack over the knee. With a small little bend into that left leg, press your hands into your blocks or into the floor and move your chest forward. And as you do so, feel like the hamstring is opening. If you round into the back, it's a little bit more of an opening for the back body. I want to try and find this into the hamstring. So bend the knee, move your chest forward as you move your left outer hip in and down. If your right knee is uncomfortable, you can grab a block or a blanket, place it in underneath it. Maybe try untucking your right toes and see if you can find a little ease there. Keep the shoulders relaxed. Keep lengthening your heart forward. Maybe you can start to bend the elbows down a little, and as you do so, notice if your back body is rounding. If it is, bend the knee, heart forward, chest forward. Again, if you've just come back from a run, can you focus in slowing down your breath? And press down into the hands, come back up. And take both hands over to the outside of the left leg. And that might not work for you, you might just start to turn towards the left. If you can get both hands to the outsides of the left leg, make sure your left toes stay pointing straight up towards the ceiling. Feel like your left hip is drawing in and down, and then start to twist your body towards the left. Your hands might stay on the blocks, they might come down towards your mat. And you may be feeling this in the left calf, you may be feeling it in the left IT band, maybe a little bit of both. Slow down your exhale, allowing time for your body to recover get fluid back into your muscles. To keep everything nice and healthy. Walk your hands back to frame the left leg. Slide your left heel in slightly, and then bend back into your left knee so that your knee again stacks above your ankle. You might prefer to use blocks here, and if you are using blocks, your block will come in underneath the right hand. Whatever height it's at, just make sure that it's stable. It's not going to move in underneath you. And then begin to twist your body around towards your left. Find your left shoulder moving back. Move the hips forward slightly, and then start to bend into your left knee, drawing your left heel towards your left bum. You can reach back. See if you can take a hold of the left foot. If you need to be a little higher, you can come a little bit higher. Moving the hips back slightly will give you a bit more space. The lower you are and the more the hips move forward, the deeper that stretch will be. Keeping your chest rotating around towards your left. Maybe start to draw that left heel in towards you a little bit more. You can even place the hand on the front of the foot as you draw heel towards bum. Notice what's happening to the left knee if it's collapsing out. Can you draw your left knee in towards your ribs? Keep your left big toe grounded. And breathing into where you're feeling sensation, where you're feeling this stretch, and seeing as you exhale, you can soften. Without slingshotting, using control, slowly lower your right foot back down. Take your hands back to your blocks or to the mat and step it back into downward facing dog. Maybe move a little if that works for you. You might already know that one side of the body is significantly or slightly tighter than the other side. So that is the case for you. Whatever side is tighter, then maybe pause this video and stay in each pose for an extra 3 to 5 breaths. Bend the knees, gaze past the hands, and step your right leg to the top of the mat. Lower your left knee to the ground, keeping your toes tucked under. Hands on blocks or on your mat. Lift your chest and gently move forward and back. As you do so, feel like your left front hip is moving forward. Your left glute engages slightly to get a little bit deeper into hip flexors, maybe even into psoas. If it's not working for you with hands on the mat, you can bring the hands to the block. Sometimes with the hands on the mat, you're feeling it more into your right hamstring. If that's the case, walk the hands back up slightly so you can get the sensation into the front of the left hip. Press down into your right heel. Slowly start to come back up. Right hand rests on your right thigh. Draw your ribs in slightly, lengthen your tailbone down, and then start to sweep your left arm up towards the ceiling. As you do so, begin to bend into that right elbow, resting your right elbow on your right thigh, reaching your left arm over towards the right. If it works better for you, right hand can rest on a block to the outside of that right hip. Engage your left glute. Feel like you're moving the front of the left hip towards the top of your mat. Maybe lift your chest, maybe lean back slightly, but draw your front ribs in. This is not a back bend. Find sensation in front of the left hip. Reach your left arm back up. Both hands back down to the blocks. Move the hips back until your left knee stacks on top, or your left hip stacks on top of the left knee. And then flex your right foot, right toes back towards the shins. The knee might be bent deeply. It might be bent a small little bit. Maybe it works towards being straight. But be mindful that you have a small micro bend in the back of that right knee at all stages. Feel your heart move forward into the space between the upper arms. The shoulders relax. Maybe you start to bend the elbows slightly, moving your right outer hip back and down. Almost like you're trying to slide your right heel back towards you and move your heart and your chest forward towards the right shin. And you're not trying to force anything here, simply allow your body to be in the state that it is. Knowing that this movement is lubricating, it's hydrating all of the muscles, allowing time for recovery. And lift your chest slightly. Start to twist your body around towards your right. Move your right hand back. Maybe you're staying there. Maybe you're stepping the left hand over to the outer side of the right hip. Make sure your right toes stay pointing up towards the ceiling, and see if you can hug that right hip into, or your right femur, your right upper thigh bone into your right hip. Starting to draw the chest around a little bit more towards your right, relaxing your shoulders. Staying here, breathing into it. Noticing your exhale. Seeing if you can elongate that exhale. Slowly make your way back to the center. Slide your right heel in slightly and then bend into your right leg until knee stacks over the ankle. Left hand comes to the floor or to a block. Move your hips forward slightly. Find a comfortable position with the left knee, maybe a blanket in underneath it, and then begin to twist your body around towards your right. The higher you are, the less intense this will be. If you have the hand higher, just make sure it's stable in whatever support you have in underneath you, and start to bend left heel towards your left bum. Reach your right hand back, take a hold of the foot or the ankle, roll your right shoulder back and lift your chest up. If the foot feels a little too far away from you here, you can always grab a strap, a blanket, maybe a towel, and loop it around the foot. See if you can move your heart and your chest a little bit further forward and up. Roll that right shoulder back and start to draw your left heel in towards your left hip. Choosing where you're holding on, you can hold on to the outside of the foot, the ankle, or the top of the foot as you draw heel in. Feel like you're moving the front of that left hip forward and down. Notice where your edge is, and then come back just ever so slightly so you're not pushing to your end range of motion. Your body's going to be slightly warmer here after your stretch, so ease back off just a small bit to prevent any overstretching or straining. Slowly release without slingshotting, left foot back down, come back to the front of your mat. Hands on blocks or on the floor. Lift the hips up, step it back into downward facing dog. Find a nice long spine. Take one full deep breath in here. Exhale it out of the mouth. Bring the knees to the mat. Your knees wide, big toes touching, and move the hips back down towards the heels. Reach the arms out in front of you. Rest your head down on the mat, maybe on a block. Or maybe stack the hands and rest your forehead down on the stack of the hands. If your knees are feeling a little achy, bring the knees a little bit closer together. Take a few breaths here, in through the nose and out through the mouth. And as you exhale, soften the upper body. Relax the shoulders, the jaw. Direct your breath into your back ribs. Breathing in to feel expansion. Breathing out to soften and relax. Stay here for as long as you wish. Regain control of your breathing. And just notice here how your body is feeling. It's always good practice at the end of any sort of exercise, whether it's a walk, a run, or anything else, to observe and become aware of what's going on in the body. Noticing anything that might be creating a little discomfort, any little aches. Being mindful of those. I'd like to thank you for joining me in this practice, and I hope to see you again soon. Namaste.